I never imagined that one ordinary afternoon would change the way I looked at my family forever. My name is Laura, and when I married my husband David, I knew that stepping into the role of a stepmother would come with challenges. David had a son, Ethan, from his first marriage, and while he was polite and respectful, I could tell from the beginning that he kept his emotions guarded. He was 20 years old, a young man trying to figure out his place in the world, and though we lived under the same roof, there were walls between us that I couldn't quite break through. One afternoon, I came home earlier than usual from work. The house was quiet, the kind of stillness that made me realize David wasn't back from his office yet. I set my bag down and was about to head upstairs when I heard a faint noise coming from Ethan's room. At first, I thought he might be talking to someone on the phone. But as I approached, I realized it wasn't a conversation at all, it was more like muffled frustration, as though he were wrestling with himself over something. I hesitated. Knocking on his door felt intrusive, but something in his voice tugged at me. Against my better judgment, I gently tapped. "Ethan, are you okay?" There was a pause, then a hurried response. "Yeah, I'm fine. Just, give me a second." When he finally opened the door, his face was pale, his eyes red as though he'd been holding back tears. For a young man who always tried to act tough and composed, the sight startled me. He quickly looked away, embarrassed that I had caught him in such a vulnerable state. "Are you sure you're all right?" I asked softly, resisting the urge to pry but unable to ignore the worry building inside me. He nodded quickly, forcing a small laugh. "Yeah, just stressed. School stuff, you know." But I could tell it wasn't just about school. His body language screamed something deeper, something heavier. I decided not to push right then. Instead, I said, "Well, if you ever want to talk, you know I'm here, right? You don't have to handle everything alone." He gave a faint nod, muttered a thank you, and shut the door again. But that brief moment stayed with me for the rest of the day. I couldn't shake the image of his red eyes, the weight in his voice, the way he tried to hide behind excuses. Later that evening, when David came home, I debated whether to bring it up. He and Ethan had a decent relationship, but there was always a sense of distance between father and son, perhaps left over from the divorce years ago. I didn't want to overstep, but I also couldn't ignore what I had seen. That night, as David drifted off to sleep beside me, I stared at the ceiling, my mind racing. Something was wrong with Ethan. And if no one stepped in to help him, I feared he might spiral deeper into whatever struggle he was facing. I made a decision: I would find a way to reach him. The following days, I started paying closer attention. Ethan often left the house late at night, coming back in the early hours of the morning. He skipped meals, avoided eye contact, and spent long hours locked in his room. At first, I thought it might just be typical young adult behavior, college stress, maybe a breakup, or simply wanting independence. But the pattern was too intense, too isolating. Finally, one Saturday afternoon, I caught him heading out with a backpack slung over his shoulder. "Hey, Ethan," I called from the kitchen, trying to sound casual. "Where are you off to?" He froze for a moment, then said, "Just going to hang out with some friends." But his tone was flat, unconvincing. My instincts told me there was more to the story. "Do you want me to pack you something to eat? You've barely touched food all day." He shook his head quickly. "No, I'm fine." And then he was gone. That night, when he returned, I noticed the tired slump of his shoulders, the defeated look in his eyes. That was when I realized, whatever Ethan was going through, it wasn't something he could fix alone. And so, I decided to step in not just as a stepmother, but as someone who truly cared. Little did I know, by helping him, I was about to uncover a truth that would turn our entire family upside down.